Pete Canalichio is an award-winning author, a TEDx speaker, and a recognized expert in brand strategy, expansion, and licensing. Over a 25-year career, he has helped scale global brands through leadership roles at the Coca-Cola Company, Newell Brands, and as founder of Brand-Alive. He began his business career at Coca-Cola in global finance, managing $32 billion in annual transactions as Treasury Operations Manager in London, before transitioning into brand expansion and licensing leadership. Pete's leadership foundation was forged at the United States Naval Academy, where he earned a degree in physics before serving as a Navy aviator and instructor pilot. As aircraft commander of a multi-engine platform and 12-member crew during the Cold War, he developed the decisive, calm under pressure leadership style that defines his career. In 2025, Pete co-founded ThriveAlive.AI, a platform designed to help military members, veterans, and spouses gain clarity on their purpose, vision, and mission.
Welcome to the MilCom Founders Podcast, where we champion and celebrate military community business founders. In each episode, we will talk with a MilCom business founder to learn how they work through various obstacles and opportunities in business and in life. I'm your host, Rod Loches. Let's meet today's guest. Hey, welcome everyone. Today on the MilCom Founders Podcast, we get to champion and celebrate Pete Canalichio with hopefully educating and inspiring other military community founders. Pete, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rod. I really am glad to be here. This is going to be fun.
Absolutely. Thank you for the time. So Pete, what's your ideal morning look like? It's a Tuesday morning, you're getting up and rolling. What's that look like for you?
Yeah, if I got to bed at the right time, my ideal morning starts off on a great path. So typically I try to get to bed around 10:30 to 11 and then get up around 6:30 the next morning. So I'm looking for 7.5, if I'm lucky, 8 hours of sleep.
Yep.
And then that sets me on the right path. I have a golden retriever. She's almost 18 months old, so she's got to get taken care of first. So we feed her and let her go out and do her business and come back. And then I'm making myself a coffee. I have a really great espresso maker. It's a Brevel brand that my wife Emily bought me because she knows how much I love coffee. She did that a year ago Christmas. And so I'll make myself a latte. And then I'll get on my phone to open up the Bible app. And I start every morning with 30 minutes minimum, and hopefully sometimes a little bit more than that, of going through whatever the rest of the day is. And then there's several programs I'm part of, and depending on when it is, I'll be in one or another. And then I sometimes do that with some friends who share that same program. So for example, right now I'm on one that's about how to promote the gospel, because I feel like I like to lead by my walk, but I really don't do a great with the talk. So I want to improve on that. And then the others are on the mysteries of the Book of Daniel and all of the prophecy around that. So that's just right now, but it could be something else. So that kind of gets my day started. I invite the Holy Spirit into my conversations, into this one, for example, so that I'm present and I'm, doing what God created me to do. So, yeah, if I do that well, everything else takes care of itself.
Yeah. So the reason why I about fell in my chair is Jen and I read Daniel 3 this morning.
Nice.
What an amazing chapter. It's when the three friends of Daniel are forced into the furnace.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then there's a fourth person that
it shows up in the fire, right?
In the fire, and Nebuchadnezzar, or whatever his name is like, oh my gosh, this is the real God. They're being protected by the real God.
Yeah, and it's amazing.
I just, this is the second time today on a call I've shared this story, and Jen and I were both like, wow, just absolutely amazing. That's for sure. So.
And one thing I would just say about that, and I haven't gotten to that in the app I'm on right now, but I love it because what we learn is God doesn't keep us from the fire, but He protects us in the fire. So that's a huge kind of orientation for all of us, right? We're not going to skip it, but he'll be there with us.
Wow, that is a great insight. I'm going to invite you to our Bible studies every morning. That is. Jen, hold on, I got to call Pete. See what he's up to.
Well, I didn't say that on my own. You know that.
Well, the shared wisdom of our community is wonderful. So, hey, how did you or why did you ever join the military? How did that come about?
Yeah, for me, it's a really personal story. I with my half of my siblings, so I'm one of eight, and I'm actually the seventh of eight, Roman Catholic Italian American family. And so when I was 13, my father moved half my siblings and me to South Texas from the Philadelphia suburbs. And that was a huge change in my life and very disruptive. But try to find balance. And so fast forward, that was entering the 8th grade. And so fast forward, I'm in high school and thinking about college, but really only thinking about schools in Texas because I really didn't know anything else. So Texas A&M, Texas Tech, Rice. And one day my father came home with a brochure about the United States Naval Academy. I didn't know what it was about. I didn't know what the Naval Academy was, but he had served in the Navy as a medical corpsman during World War II. And it turns out that he was with a colleague at work, and his colleague's son was my classmate. And so she had discussed with her son about the Naval Academy, and he said, "Mom, I really appreciate it, but I'm not interested." And so she handed my dad that brochure, and I remember it was like, I don't know, maybe 10-point font, maybe 9. It was really stuff with images and words, and I read it cover to cover. And by the time I was done that, I was like, this is where I want to go to school. I hadn't focused on any others. And it wasn't until the beginning of the senior year, I was like, maybe I won't get in, and maybe I should be thinking about other places to go. But fortunately for me, I did do that. But fortunately for me, I did get accepted around February of my senior year, and was really glad I did it.
Amazing! Congratulations. That's.
Thank you.
So you went to the Naval Academy, beautiful place. Even an Army guy can admit that it's gorgeous. But tell me about some of the challenges, especially I don't know what you called your plebe year.
Plebe year, same as at West Point.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me about your plebe year. I imagine you had to have some impressionable moments that taught you about leadership and gosh knows what else. What are some of those things you really realized in that
moment? You don't know what you don't know, right? And I know you know what I'm talking about, but induction day, the doors close and everything kind of goes crazy. And for the most part, I embraced it. I was kind of orientated to the idea it was going to be really hard. But what I didn't know was going to happen is during a mandatory wrestling kind of drill, one of my company mates threw his shoulder into my right knee, and it buckled, and I ended up, swelling up and partially tearing my anterior cruciate ligament. And so I started getting on crutches for that. And all of a sudden it was like, okay, am I a slacker? Because now I'm on crutches. And, certainly that wasn't my case, but I hated that I was injured. Fortunately, it did heal enough that I got through summer fine. But academic year, about a month later, I was doing mandatory athletics, and I was playing battalion football, which was fully padded. And I was in a defense position. I think I was playing linebacker, and I go to push this running back out of bounds as part of my play, and I pivoted on my right knee and completely tore the ACL. And so that was a physical setback that was massive. At a time when you're already full up with things to do. And on top of that, my education at in Harlingen, Texas, in South Texas, was not rigorous enough to really fully prepare me. So I was struggling academically. I was one of the top 5 in my class at high school, and here I am, my first marking period, with a 1.7 GPA. And I remember getting called into the company officers office, and I'm thinking, okay, well, he's probably going to encourage me to, work harder. I'm going to get through this. And instead, I remember him saying, Midshipman Canalichio, why are you bringing the company average down? So
Wow.
I had a physical ailment. I had academics where I was struggling and feeling not really confident. And then a company officer who didn't sound like he really believed in me. And I think the last thing was challenging is I had a roommate who was a bit of a bully. So mid fall semester of my plebe year, I think I wrote my dad a note and said, I'm not really sure this is the right place for me.
Wow.
And he had a lot of wisdom, and he wrote me back because we weren't able to make too many phone calls back then.
Right.
And he said, hey, why don't you just wait till the end of the semester, see how you do. And fortunately, by the end of the semester, I had brought my 1.7 up to like a 2.4 something, which was acceptable, but not really to me. But anyway, I improved, and I said, okay, I'm going to go through the next semester, see how I do. And that improved, and I never looked back. It just got better and better every semester after that.
The wisdom of our parents just the wisdom of our parents is amazing.
Yeah, and just don't rush things.
Don't rush things?
Yeah, like in other words, don't make a hasty decision because things aren't going well now. That was real wisdom for me, just to hang in there and maybe things will improve, and they did. And I'm grateful that he didn't, offer me the safety net of, oh, if you don't feel like that's a place for you, come on home, we'll take care of you.
He didn't give you the easy way out.
Didn't give me the easy way out.
Yeah, and how often are those the moments that we remember for the rest of our life,
Yeah,
I sure
remember it as if it were yesterday, for sure.
Yeah. So you go out into the fleet, or what did you do in the fleet? What did you do for the Navy?
So between our sophomore and junior years, second class summer, we get to get orientated to the different options available. And for us at the Naval Academy, in addition to becoming a naval officer, we get to be the option of becoming a Marine Corps officer if we qualify. So we went on this 4-week stint. We spent a week in Pensacola, Florida, looking at aviation, which could be naval aviation or Marine Corps aviation. Then I spent a week up in Groton, Connecticut, and got on a boomer submarine.
Wow.
Then went to Quantico, Virginia, for a week with those folks in the Marine Corps. And then the final week was trying to remember exactly where that was, but I think Norfolk, Virginia, looking at surface warfare. And I got to tell you, I got on a ship and I was like, I can't do this. This pitching and hauling and rolling and surging is just good. My body wasn't cut out for that. So I was like, I cannot be a surface warfare guy. And then I got on a submarine, and I actually decided I would study physics at Navy because I thought I might want to be a submariner. And I got on a submarine, and I was so claustrophobic. Even on the ballistic missile submarine, I was like, I can't do this either.
I get it.
And then I thought about Marine Corps because I did like the esprit de corps of the Marines.
Sure.
But it was a little bit, when I realized it was a little bit too tightly wound, is when we were in Quantico, and I'm sure you appreciate this, being a cadet at West Point. We heard attention on deck, and everybody jumped to, attention, the whole class that was there. And I'm getting ready for some, at least Navy captain or we're in Marine Corps, right? So colonel or, maybe a brigadier general walking down to the front of the room, and it was a second lieutenant. And I said, okay, if we're going to go this crazy for a second lieutenant, maybe this place is a little bit, wound too tight for me. So fortunately, I had good eyesight at the time, and so decided to go naval aviation, and I loved it. I really did. I took to it really well. When I graduated, got into flight school, did really well in primary. I was one of the, I don't know what they call it, the Dean's List or Commandant's List or whatever list it was. And then I ended up graduating from flight school with distinction. I chose to go propellers versus, tactical aircraft or helicopters. I had my choice, but I really liked the mission of the P3 Orion, which was the aircraft that I got to fly, which was a 12-member crew, anti-submarine warfare, over the ocean, really engaging the enemy, which at the time during the Cold War was Soviet submarines primarily.
Sure.
And so for me, the yanking and banking, which I respect the hell out of my peers who chose that route, wasn't something that I was needing to have. I really love more of how could I put this aircraft in the right position to do the mission that we were called to do, and always having a team around me, and so just really thrived in that role.
That's pretty cool. I never realized that there were 12 people on that plane. That's an amazing platform. I mean, you read about it, you hear about it, but that's a lot of people on one plane. That's for sure. And the dynamics that you must have encountered, I would say.
Yeah.
And how,
for sure.
how do you, as the leader of a P3, how do you manage how do you lead your team while they're doing all these various things? What were some of the key components of leadership you learned in that role?
It's interesting for me because I end up going to graduate school, and one of the questions was about that sort of thing. And so what I said was I got to be not only the leader, but I was a role player as well. So it was important for me to walk the talk as one of the members of the crew, but also show leadership to the crew. And how did that entail itself? I had to do my job really well, right? If I'm going to ask them to do their job well, I had to do mine exceptionally well. And then I had to take interest in every one of them about what they were doing and to convey to them the importance of their role, that we as a crew weren't going to be successful unless every one of us did our jobs exceptionally well. So whether it was the sensor operator managing the radar, or with the folks that were doing the listening devices on the sonar buoys about the submarine that we were tracking, or the communications navigator, or the guy that loaded the buoys in the armament, all of them were critically important. So I was prided myself on showing up, knowing what I'm supposed to know as best as I can to kind of walk the talk, but then really engaging with them and letting them know how important their role was to our success.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's pretty cool. And then there's so many questions I can ask about your military background, but I want to get into Thrive Alive.
Okay.
Here, but give me just one example of great leadership, other than what your dad shared with you in that big question of your life. But what's a great thing of leadership that you continue to lean on today, that you learned from someone or something in the military that taught you that?
Well, there's a story that I'll try not to take too much time, but it's an interesting what happened. For me, I think the Naval Academy set me up very well to be a good naval officer and naval pilot. And so I remember, my XO at the time, who became my commanding officer, give me the opportunity to really perform well in the aircraft and to get qualified as quickly as I wanted to move, right? Which meant that I would get future opportunities. So there was a period there when I was a young plane commander, and I was given the opportunity to be one of two pilots to get evaluated during a routine annual NATOPS evaluation, which basically meant we all had to take a test, and then they examined two pilots. And if both of us passed, the squadron passed. If one of us failed, the squadron failed. So a lot of pressure.
That's the military, absolutely.
Yeah, a lot of pressure. But fortunately, the role of a NATOPS evaluation was pretty straightforward. And so I fortunately did well enough that we had extra time. And I was probably a JG or a young lieutenant at the time, and the evaluator was a commander. And he said, look, we've got a little bit of extra time. Let me take you through a scenario that you might encounter that's not in the procedures manual. And he said, if you ever encounter an oil-fed fire, here's what it's going to look like. You're going to have, flames potentially coming out of the back of the airplane. You will not be able to extinguish the fire because it will be being fueled by the oil that's outside of the encapsulated engine. And in that case, you're really going to have two options. You're going to either have to climb high enough to starve that fire of oxygen, or dive and blow it out like a candle. You're smiling and nodding like you know exactly what I'm talking about. Well, fast forward about 9 months later, I was with my crew on a mission off the coast of California, and we'd been out there a long time, and we were asked to basically extend our flight as long as possible. And when we extended, we typically would shut an engine down and sometimes two engines. We could operate efficiently with three, and then if we got light enough, we could do it with two. So we've been flying with three engines for a long time. We were getting ready to actually make our way back to our base when we got told our relief aircraft was not going to be able to get there in time because they had a mechanical problem. Stay out as long as you can. So we're just about ready to shut down the second outboard engine when we checked all the other engines, and we noticed that the inboard engine on the right side, the oil gauges are functioning abnormally, which meant we were in a condition where we had to shut that engine down. And so it's about midnight. We'd been up for most of the day, flying for about 7 or 8 hours at the time. And when we shut down the engine, the engine fire light came on, a big loud horn came in the cockpit, and we all woke up from whatever days we were in, and we went through the emergency shutdown checklist and realized that it actually was an oil pit fire. I was able to get the fire out initially, and we started making our way back home. And as I climbed, the airplane slowed, and the fire came back on. And I remember saying a prayer at that point, "Dear God, please don't let me die tonight." Literally, those are the words. And then I got about trying to figure out how to put that fire out. And I remembered that commander's guidance. And I said, we really have only one choice. We're about 1,500 feet. We have to get the fire out. We're going to dive for the deck. And if we don't get it out, we're going to ditch the airplane. The water temperature was 45 degrees and the sea state was 15 to 20 foot swells. And everybody put on their dry suits except for me because I was flying the airplane. And I was ready to put it into the ocean if I had to. And as we dove below 1,000 feet, I'm trying to remember exactly when it went out, but I want to say around 800 feet or maybe 700 feet, we got to about 265 knots, which was about 80 knots faster than we'd been flying, and the fire went out. Jeez. And so we kept our altitude where we were, let the airspeed increase, and then did a really slow climb to keep that speed up until the engine could cool itself, and we made our way home. And, I like to think in those conditions, because of all the training I had, I kept a level head. I had a great crew. We were all prepared. My co-pilot did a phenomenal job. He saw the fire. He was on the right side. I was on the left side. The guy in the back saw the fire, so he could tell us when it was going out. And everybody acted really professionally. And then the noteworthy thing after we got home and we landed and we debriefed about the fire, we went home and came back shortly the next day, and we learned that we'd actually completed the mission that we were sent out to do, which was really an important one. So in addition to surviving the fire and all that, we were able to get the mission done on that airplane, on that submarine, which was a very important one to do.
Wow. So you were in the P3, you're only at 1,500 feet. That's not a lot of room to dive.
No. I literally pushed up the engine power on my three engines, and and it was kind of such an abnormal thing to do. Mm-hmm. But I was like, what we were told was if a wing fire persisted for more than 3 minutes, the aluminum metal would start to melt, and the airframe would start to lose its ability to be plane worthy, let's just say. So we didn't have a lot of time to screw around, so we just had to get about it and realize it was either going to go out, or we were going to, before that wing fell off or distorted, we were going to be on the ocean surface and getting into life rafts, and hopefully I was going to not die of hypothermia.
Wow. Well, glad you're okay.
Fortunately, I didn't have to do that.
And thank gosh that officer took a little extra time to say, hey, this isn't on here, but here's something to be aware of,
I really believe that was meant to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Pete, I know you're an accomplished author, and I think how did those books that you wrote, or book, I think it's a couple now,
Mm-hmm.
and Thrive Alive, how did that all evolve and become?
Yeah, great question. So there is a direct correlation. So I had in my mind, always in my mind, at some point in my life, I would write a book. I didn't know what it would be about, but the idea of becoming an accomplished author was important to me. Then in 2009, I launched my company, which is called Brand Alive. And at the time, I realized that the field that I was mostly focused in, which was around brand expansion and licensing, there was no book about it. In fact, what I remember being frustrated about when I first encountered this field called brand licensing, I was like, wow, I wish I could have taken a course in brand licensing when I was in business school, because it's trial by fire. I'm having to learn all this stuff kind of on the fly, and I could have benefited so tremendously from it. So I kind of made a note to myself, and I said, if I'm ever in a position where I can write this book, I'm going to write it, because the industry needs to have one.
Yeah.
So kind of started my company in 2009, tried to get off the ground. In about 2000 and I'd say 14 or 15, I said, okay, now I'm in a position where I can actually make the time. And I went to a book writing course over a weekend in New York City, told me all about, I wanted to go to the best, right? Like, let's go find out what's entailed. How do you write a book proposal? Talk to successful authors. What do they have to commit to? How does the publishing industry work? Should I self-publish? Should I get an established publisher? If I could get one, what would that look like? And then it's all about, okay, now, and the book proposal is, okay, what's your book about? Why is that compelling? Why should somebody read from you? Who is the audience that's going to read it? Why should they believe what you're going to say? All of these things, right? My book proposal, I think, ended up being about 80 pages. But I felt like I really knew at that point. And at the time also, I said, okay, why start and do this by myself? Let me go try to find a co-author. And I found a phenomenal brand strategist out of Wellington, New Zealand, who Mark DeSoma, who agreed to be my co-author. And so we got about it. We figured out what we were each going to write, and then we had different stages that we would connect. And so one day, like a year into the process, we had both written all the chapters that we were supposed to write, and then we were going to integrate those. And I get this email from him, and he said, Pete, I'm really sorry. I've completed all of the initial work I agreed to. I can't justify this. I'm out.
Yeah, what a surprise. Sorry.
I don't. Yeah, I was, you can't imagine how bummed I was. He said, I don't want to be on the cover of the book. We had co-created a model called Lasso. He said, I do want credit for that. But I want you to finish the book. Yeah, that's it.
Wow.
And I immediately wrote him back and said, don't quit, like we can do this together. And having him alongside me was so valuable, not only because he was extremely talented, professional, but it was a teammate. And I always wanted to have him in my corner, but I couldn't convince him. And so I said, okay, what is it going to take for me to finish this book? I have to take all of his basic chapters and make them better, more complete. Not better in the sense of the writing, because the writing was excellent, but just to really capture the case studies that would represent all the points that he made, and then write all of my own chapters and do the same thing, and then finalize it and try to find an agent, and then try to find a publisher. I decided that I would not self-publish, that I would look for a publisher, because I was promoting myself as a subject matter expert in brand strategy. And I thought, if I can get a publisher to support the publishing of my book, that will reinforce that I am worthy of being able to state that this is my expertise. And so that was really important to me, way more than how much revenue I would lose or not get from the publishing model. So I was fortunate to find a publisher out of London, England called Emerson that agreed to, sorry, not Emerson, Emerald Publishing House. They've been around since the early 60s. Out of London, they agreed to publish the book. And the reason I share all that is because right after it was published, I had an opportunity to talk on the subject. Brand licensing has a lot of legal components. So I was at a law firm talking about it when after the talk was over, a gentleman came up from the back of the room and he said, "Hey, I really enjoyed your talk. Would you agree to meet?" We agreed to meet. He was telling me about his business. He was small business and he created video games and games using technology. He had created a kind of a hybrid game, which was, ride a broom and put on an augmented reality headset. And he wanted to replicate the Quidditch game out of Harry Potter. And at the time, Disney had bought Harry Potter, and he said, "I want to license the brand Quidditch from the Disney company." And I didn't have the heart to tell him, but I told him anyway. I said, "I'm really sorry. You have a really cool technology, but you're never going to get that license. And here's why." And I explained it to him. And then at that point, he appreciated my subject matter expertise. And he said I could really use Pete's help. So he asked me what my hourly rate was. And he kind of, I guess, gulped to himself. And he goes, "I can't afford to pay that. But if I take Pete to breakfasts and lunches, I can glean more information from him. And it won't cost me but, the cost of a meal." I chuckle at that because I didn't know that this is what he was thinking at the time. His name is Ernesto Escobar, and Ernesto is my co-founder. But after a couple of those, he said, "Hey, have you ever thought of the idea of using technology to democratize your knowledge?" And I thought about that for about 30 seconds, and I said to myself and then to him out loud, I said, "Well, I took the time to write this book because sharing my knowledge is really important. I took the time to lecture at that law firm because that's really important. I had also become an adjunct professor at Georgia State, where I taught marketing management for 3 semesters, and then actually got the chance to teach a course in brand management at Mercer with the book Expand, Grow, Thrive." So when he said that, I'm like, "Yeah, I'd be interested. What are you talking about?" So he said, "Well, we'll just meet quarterly. And then if we have something going, we'll meet more frequently, maybe once a month." And we did that for about 2.5 years. And we said, "Well, I think we have something here." And then at that point, he said, "I think now we're ready to bring in a third partner who is really the technology expert." And so Ernesto had worked with a gentleman named Santiago out of Argentina who had helped him develop his gaming using this software technology that he had created. And Santiago was excited about what we were trying to do because the whole idea was, how could we take my subject matter expertise in brand strategy, brand expansion, brand licensing, and make it available via the web to anyone, anytime, anywhere for a fraction of the cost. And so Santiago said, "Hey, I think we can use artificial intelligence to make this work." And I was like, "That sounds really sexy. I don't have a clue what that means, but okay."
And when was this?
It's good.
When was
this? Was about 2.5 years ago.
Okay, pretty early.
Yeah. And so shortly thereafter, he showed me a basic example, and I could see, one of my, I guess, skills is I can see when somebody shows me something like the future state of it. And I was like, "Oh my, this is going to be really cool." I couldn't believe that those two guys could take what I had been doing and create a platform where somebody could engage with an avatar of me, and it would feel like an authentic experience. And it was all about, how did I approach my clients on the subject matter expertise? How did I engage with them from a question and response perspective? And then what was my personality like, and how could we build that into our platform? And they were able to do all that, and it was remarkable. So we started testing it and sharing with people. And it was so incredible to hear them say, "I never thought I could write my own purpose statement, but with your help, I've really been able to crystallize it." And it brought me to tears to think that I had something that I could never do on my own. So I felt like we really were onto something. Yeah. The other thing, getting back to my faith, one of the questions I ask in the purpose statement questions is, why do I exist? I wanted people to really think about that question and orientate themselves to the universe in which we live and say, maybe there's something bigger than just me.
That's right.
And if I could do my part in that, maybe people could start to think about, is there a God out there, and what relationship could we have with that God? So
Yeah, and
that was
imagine,
kind of a cool thing.
yeah, imagine, first of all, if we all were strong in our faith, how much better the world would be. And if we all understood what our purpose is and how we fit into contributing to the greater good, prayerfully within the teachings of Christ. But imagine the world if we all did that. I mean,
Oh, it really gets
I,
exciting.
I think we can imagine that. It's just not part of this world.
That's right. That's right. It
So,
is. I have a note on my monitor right below. It says, will this matter in heaven? And the question is, whatever I'm working on, how does it suit itself in the next life? Like, is this worthy of my time? Should I be focusing on this particular activity? So it helps keep me grounded.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but just to get to, kind of like put a bow on that, I was fortunate enough to have two clients that I worked with that had been happy with my work, went on to do something else, and then came back to me and wanted me to help them with another project. And I said to them, independently of each other, within a couple months of each other, hey, we're working on this platform. Would you mind trying it to find your new purpose, vision, mission? And they did, and they came back and said, oh my gosh, these are great results, as if we were working with you. And then the kicker
Wow.
for me was it felt like we were talking to you.
Mm-hmm.
And since those
Well,
two
compliment.
responses, both of those individuals have become advisors of our company and investors in our company. So that gave me a real high level confidence that we had something that they believed in it enough that they would give up their time, their expertise, and their investment to be
Yeah.
part of what we're trying to create.
And the business name is ThriveAlive.AI, right?
Correct. It originally was Brand Alive, but what we
That's right.
realized was that it didn't have to be limited in scope to just what I had created, that we could create a platform using me as the first use case to bring any subject matter expert on and help that expert really, I would say, productize their knowledge around a specific output
Mm-hmm.
for a specific outcome. So we started with me with purpose, vision, mission, and values. We've also created a beliefs module, which is a nice thing to have for people to test. It doesn't cost anything. But the idea was, okay, well, we could go down the path of next going into brand strategy, brand expansion, brand licensing, or we could look for other experts and bring them on board. Maybe it's around, am I suited to be an entrepreneur? If so, great. If not, then I should consider some other options. Maybe it's like, okay, now that I have purpose, vision, mission, what are my career pathways look like?
Yeah.
Or if I have a small business, what does it look like to create a marketing plan or financial strategy? So we are starting to attract other experts, some
Mm-hmm.
of which whom from our shared relationships on 10x Vets.
Sure.
And we're really excited about that because we're in the process of creating a module to help experts create their own modules. And once that happens, we can quickly get from one expert to
Yeah.
dozens of experts and hundreds of modules. And so it can be a destination for anyone, for themselves or for their organization, find the expertise they need from the person that they want to engage with anytime, anywhere for just a tiny fraction of the cost
Yeah.
of actually working with that
So,
individual.
so I know we've talked about you have this for helping people build out their personal vision, mission. What do you call that module? It's a powerful
So
one.
each of those stands alone. So there's 4 modules: a purpose module, a vision module, a mission module, and a values module.
Got it.
And so the idea is, okay, purpose, why do I do what I do? Why should I be doing what I'm doing? What is my purpose in life? Vision, what does the future look like if I'm living my purpose? Mission is, how do I achieve my vision if I'm following my purpose? And the values, I kind of think of them as like guardrails to make sure that I do the
Yep.
things that are important to me and I don't get off into the ditch. But, we want to add, as I said, a whole host of other modules. And the reason, and so we said, okay, who can benefit from those 4 modules while we build out the other ones? And what we realized through a lot of research we did with Duke University, some of the classes that we've been engaging with, is that someone going through a transition can benefit the most, because that's when they're at that inflection point that they really care about things like purpose. And so we started looking at, well, what are the states where you're going through a transition? Well, maybe you're in retirement, going into retirement. Maybe you're you've been laid off from work and you're looking for a new opportunity. Maybe you went to graduate school and you're trying to pivot careers. Maybe it's around a birth or a marriage. Or you're an athlete and you've been, you had a successful career in that, and now your athletic career is over. And then the one that kind of hit near and dear to my heart was military in transition, veterans and their families. Yeah, and I thought about my own transition. And I had decided after, flying in the Navy, I was active duty for about 7 years when I fulfilled my obligation. And, trying to figure out, do I stay in, do I leave? I was married, I had 2 small children. And I said, I think it's going to be really hard. I had a really great military career, but I said, it's just going to be so hard on that family. I'm going to I'm going to leave the military and try another career. And most of my peers were becoming airline pilots. And that would have been an easy transition for me. The P3 was like a natural aircraft to go. But I was like, I know this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't think I'm going to be really happy with that decision. So I was smart enough to decide to go to business school. But here was the big error in judgment. When they asked me what did I want to concentrate my studies in, what did I want to effectively major in, I didn't know the answer. I had no idea. I didn't know the language of business. I didn't know anything about business. And so I said, oh, well, Pete, you studied physics at Navy. You're good at math. Why not study finance? And that was not really thoughtful. Nobody said, here, let's talk about what your purpose is or what the vision look like if you're living your purpose. And so I'm hidden, like a typical, military officer. I'm just like, I just want to do the best I can, finish well, make myself and those around me proud. So I get my degree in finance. I get recruited to the Coca-Cola company. I get hired. It brought me to Atlanta. And it wasn't but a year into that, I was like, oh, I think I may be in the wrong track. I'm looking over my shoulder. I'm looking at the folks in the marketing department. I'm like, this is
because you were in finance for Coca-Cola, not in marketing. Okay.
So there was, people didn't do that. You just didn't switch, tracks. And so I got invited to become a member of the Treasury Department. I thought, okay, well, cool. I studied options and futures in business school. I'll get to mess around with that a bit. And so that was kind of exciting. So I did that. And then I was given an opportunity to live in London for a year working in cash management operations. And I think getting a root canal might have been more exciting than what that was all about. And it was fraught with the possibilities of errors. And if I made an error, it was going to cost the company money. And it just was, the work was, for me personally, for others, maybe not, maybe for you would have like thrived in it. And I was hating it. And so when that project was over, they had committed to trying to help me find another role. And I thought, okay, here's my opportunity.
Isn't that nice?
Yes.
That's amazing.
So they committed to that if I did a good job, and thankfully I did. And I went to the treasurer of the company and I said, can I get permission to talk to somebody in marketing? I don't know what he thought about that, but he was like, sure, Pete, if you want to give up your finance career, you've been doing it for 5 years. But he knew somebody who had been a former associate treasurer, and I went to talk to her, and she was leading a group called Business Affairs, which was all around putting business discipline into sponsorship negotiation. So I spoke to her, and she's like, hey, I have an opening. Why don't you come work for me? And that was very fortuitous. And then I realized, why does the company, engage in sponsorship? What is it about these brands like the Olympics or FIFA World Cup, which is about to happen right in the United States, or
Yeah.
NASCAR, that is appealing to Coca-Cola? Why would we spend tens of millions of dollars on this? And I started to understand branding, and I fell in love with that. And that led me into worldwide licensing, which is when I said, I wish I could have taken a course in this in business school.
Uh-huh.
But what the kind of full circle is, getting back to helping military and transition veterans and their families
Yeah.
is, I didn't want somebody to have to do a 7-year detour like I did. What if somebody would have helped me as I was entering business school and said, hey, we're going to spend a couple of days defining your purpose, vision, mission. All of you guys and ladies, right? Then you'll have a much better understanding of why you want to study what you want to study and where you might want to work.
Yeah.
And I thought,
and think how many times that happens in life, to people that don't find their right spot in life for 5 years, 15, or all their life.
Yeah,
so
it's so sad.
Yeah.
We're not doing what we're supposed to be doing.
To do that, and you are. On that piece within Thrive Alive, how many people total do you think you've been able to do that for?
Oh, now we've probably helped more than 300.
Wow.
And we're really starting to get some traction, and we're looking at opportunities to, conduct some pilot programs that are going to turn into, full-time, engagement with clients. And I'm seeing, and I had a bit of a vision of where God wants us to go. And so when I said, oh, this is bigger than me, I had this vision of, okay, we're literally going to have hundreds of experts with thousands of modules helping who knows how many people. So it really excites me. Like, I can't even tell you about the idea that I could help these people and these organizations have something that is so precious, an understanding of why they are put on this planet, right? What they're supposed to be doing. And we all learn, right? Like, you don't have to do everything. Just do what you do and love what you do, and surround yourself with men and women who can do the things that they love, and together come, and create something that can make a difference. And have
that impact and that mission, that shared vision, mission, values. I mean, absolutely. And no, that's fantastic. And so the concept is you'll get other experts. Like if there's a guy that that could do CFO, financial leadership. And
do you know anyone that could help us
exactly
with that? I think financial discipline is so important. I mean, obviously I studied it for 7 years. I really appreciate what you do, Rod, all jesting aside. But I mean, the idea of just people understanding basic financial principles is so important to,
absolutely,
changing their lives, right? And changing the trajectory of their companies.
Well, 300 people, what you've done with your business, with Brand Alive and Thrive Alive is pretty amazing. 300 plus, I mean, gosh knows. So how did you ever become what I'll call a coachable leader or founder? Because I think that coachability is such a critical thing I think it's a critical skill set to success.
Well, that's a great question. What popped in my head, I remember being told this plebe summer. It was all around the idea of it's hard to be a follower in a leadership school. We were taught initially, before you become a leader, you have to understand how to be a follower.
Yeah.
And followers have to, be able to understand why they need to follow the leader and how they're going to benefit. And then I flip that and say, what is a leader? A leader is someone that someone wants to follow. That's the definition of a leader. I don't care what your title is. You could have no title. But if people want to follow you because what you do is meaningful to them, then you're a leader. But you have, so for me, around coachability, it's like, well, let's start with trying to figure out how to be a good follower. And then it's all around this idea, and I don't even want to use the word because then it says maybe I'm not, but I really do try to stay humble in who I am and say that everything I have is given to me.
Yeah.
So my job is to take the skills and talents I have and maximize them to the best of my ability to do the role that I've been given on this planet. And to do that, I have to be willing to listen to people in all stages who can say, hey, Pete, you have a blind spot over here. Do you? And literally my daughter, Ellie, who is a Naval Academy grad as well, I remember she's 27 right now. I remember when she was like 16 and I was asking her something about something, or I was telling her what I was going to do around something significant. And she said, Dad, I don't mean to be sassy, but what are you thinking? And I was like, maybe I ought to listen to her on this one. And
it took me a second, but I was like, wow.
Yeah. And I actually changed the decision I made based on that input. And it was I was so glad that she did, because I would have made a mistake. And
it is amazing
she helped me dodge that.
How our teenage daughters, and I'm sure sons too, but I have 2 daughters, sometimes can just say, words of wisdom. And Olivia, my younger daughter, Jen and I had decided to get married, and we just said, hey, we're going to go get married in the church. Olivia comes back. We're telling her what we're going to do. She came back just a few days later with a PowerPoint. Dad, here's what you need to do if you're going to get married. You need to get married in a place that you love, surrounded by people that love you, and invite everybody into this this moment. And I was like, oh, and she was right. We ended up getting married in Panama City Beach, Florida, which is where our family's traveled for 50 years. My grandparents used to have a place there on the beach. And Jen is she's the only child, but we got married with 140 of our friends and family around us. And that it kept growing because people just kept saying, oh, well, we're coming. We're like, but you're not invited. They're like, we don't care. And it was fantastic. But, we just thought, hey, it's our second time around, and it was beautiful. It was wonderful. And that would have never happened without Olivia sharing that moment of leadership and saying, hey, what are you thinking? Are you going to be that selfish? Basically. In a beautiful way. Yeah. She was coaching us and sharing that with us.
Yeah. You honored her by listening to her.
Yes, I think we did. That's for sure. So, hey, I want to make sure I honor your time. I know we're getting towards the end here, but Pete, what have I not asked you about regarding Thrive Alive that people need to know?
Well, thank you for this opportunity. First off, it's great to be able to share it, and this platform is wonderful. And I love that you have an hour, because then you get to really get into some rich stories, which are important. So what I would want people to know is, first off, Thrive Alive is created for you. We are going to build it and build it and build it to have more and more experts on here to help, people who always wanted help from a specific expert, but could never get their attention, or get on their schedule or afford them. So with that in mind, if you think you're an expert on something that the world can benefit from, and you like the idea of maybe using artificial intelligence to create a digital twin of you, and by the way, everyone who does this has to sign off on what we're creating, so they give it the full measure of their support, then we would love to hear from you. Mm-hmm. And then if you are in a position where you could benefit from today on having clarity around purpose, vision, mission, or values, we would love to help you or your organization. Or if you're in a position to help military that are transitioning, or veterans, or their families, and I always say their families because it's so important to not forget them. It's something that I want to make sure we do. Then please, reach out. The only way we're going to be successful is with help from lots of folks like you, Rod, and the people listening. So it's ThriveAlive.AI. That's our website, ThriveAlive.AI.
Fantastic. Hey, what's some resources that you've used or you would suggest founders take a look at, learn, read, absorb, listen to? What are 2 or 3 resources that you think are important for people, founders, to embrace?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I'm part of a platform right now, which the Naval Academy, a gentleman named Anthony Spindler, who's responsible for alumni services, is providing, and he brought the couple experts to some of us around really understanding how artificial intelligence works.
Mhm.
Because just because our platform uses artificial intelligence doesn't mean I understood it. So I'm trying to get more and more clarity around it, to embrace it, just so I know what I need to know, and then start to be able to use it. So I really love the idea for everyone to not be afraid of AI, but to be able to understand it and its benefits, and then understand how to engage with it. So that's one thing. And then I'm currently listening to, and I'm listening to the author, but I have a hard copy of a book called The Meaning of Life by Professor Arthur Brooks. He's a Harvard professor. He also teaches a course on happiness and has written a book on happiness. But you know who this is? You've heard of him?
Yeah, no, I do. Yeah, but that.
Yeah. So for me, what I love about this is we're in the same field, right?
Yeah.
And the way he defines meaningfulness is equal to coherence plus purpose plus significance. And he defines what coherence is. Of course, we have a clarity on purpose, and then what significance is. And it's really important. I'll finish with this. He says that the right and left brain are not around, the kind of the tactical or the detailed stuff and the creative stuff. It's really around this idea of right brain being around complex problems and left brain being around complicated problems. Complicated problems we can solve. Complex problems are the ones we can never solve. We just pursue our whole life.
Interesting.
And if you don't allow the quick periods of quietness to get into the complex right-brained area, you actually end up hurting yourself. So what do we end up doing whenever we have a dull moment? We pick up our phones and we get on them, which drives us from right brain to left brain. You've got to go out into the wilderness or stare up the stars and just let your brain drift. So I'm learning a lot about that.
Absolutely.
So if we can balance AI and meaningfulness and purpose, I think we're all going to be in a better place.
Yeah, well, Pete, I appreciate your time very much today. Thank you for the insights and ideas and the stories that are so important for people to hear. Thank you so much. Just want to let you know that we're going to donate $100 to the MilCom Founders Scholarship Fund in your name, and really appreciate that. And so thank you again. Thanks for joining us on the MilCom Founders Podcast. If you know a MilCom founder with a story to share, reach out to us at milcomfounders.com. For each guest on our show, One Degree Financial donates $100 to the Dick Wojcik Veteran Entrepreneur Scholarship Fund, supporting education for children of a MilCom business owner. Stay ready.